Sri Ganga Mata ki Jai. Devotees, we are in the holy month of Kartik. I would like to glorify Ganga Ma through a Tulsidas composition from Vinay Patrika, a Ganga Stuti. So we concentrate on that divine energy in the form of Ganga. शीतले तुम जगत माता, शीतले तुम जगत पिता, शीतले तुम जगत धात्री, शीतलाये नमो नमः। शीतले तुम जगत माता, शीतले तुम जगत पिता, शीतले तुम जगद्धात्री, शीतलाय नमो नमः। जय जय भगीरथ नंदनी, मुनिजे चकोर चंदनी, नर नाग विबुध बंदनी, जय जन्म बालिका। जय जय भगीरथ नंदनी, मुनिचे चकोर चंदनी, नर नाग विबुध बंदनी, जय जन्म बालिका। जय जय भगीरथ नंदिनी, मुनिचे चकोर चंदनी, नर नाग विबुध बंदनी, जय जन्म बालिका। जय जय भगीरथ नंदिनी। विष्णु पर सरोज जासी, विष्णु पर सरोज जासी, ईश शीस पर विभासी, त्रिपत गासी पुण्य राशि, त्रिपत गासी पुण्य राशि, पाप छालिका। जय जय भगीरथ नंदिनी, मुनिचे चकोर चंदनी, नर नाग विबुध बंदनी, जय जन्म बालिका। जय जय भगीरथ नंदिनी। बिमल विपुल बहसी बारी, बिमल विपुल बहसी बारी, शीतल त्रयतापहारी, भंवर भर विभंग तर, भवर भर विभंग तर, तरंग मालिका। जय जय भगीरथ नंदिनी, मुनिचे चकोर चंदनी, नर नाग विबुध बंदनी, जय जन्म बालिका। जय जय भगीरथ नंदिनी। पुरुजन पूजो पहार, पुरुजन पूजो पहार, शोभित शशि धवल धार, भंजन भव भार भक्ति, भंजन भव भार भक्ति, कल्पथालिका। जय जय भगीरथ नंदिनी, मुनिचे चकोर चंदनी, नर नाग विबुध बंदनी, जय जन्म बालिका। जय जय भगीरथ नंदिनी। निज तत बासी बिहंग, निज तत बासी बिहंग, जलथर चर पशु पतंग, कीत जटिल तपस सब, कीत जटिल तपस सब, सरस पालिका। जय जय भगीरथ नंदिनी, मुनिचे चकोर चंदनी, नाग विबुध बंदनी, जय जन्म बालिका। जय जय भगीरथ नंदिनी। तुलसी तव तीर तीर, तुलसी तव तीर तीर, सुमिरत रघुवंश वीर, तुलसी तव तीर तीर, तुलसी तव तीर तीर, सुमिरत रघुवंश वीर, बिचरत मति देहि मोह, बिचरत मति देहि मोह, महिष कालिका। जय जय भगीरथ नंदिनी, मुनिचे चकोर चंदनी नर नाग विबुध बंदनी जय जन्म बालिका जय जन्म बालिका जय जन्म बालिका बोले श्री गंगा माता की। Today I would like to present a very brief message on spiritual devotion. We've been looking at the Narad Bhakti Sutras, and Narad presents a very interesting synopsis of bhakti, and what he does, he synthesizes different views on bhakti and then presents his own. The reason for presenting this, again, it is a sort of roadmap, a framework that we can use to analyze ourselves as devotees. In case you're not aware, we are practicing Gyan Bhakti. This is what we practice. Devotion, but devotion through knowledge. So let us listen to what Narad has to say in one or two brief sutras. Again, this comes from the Narad Bhakti Sutras. In Sutra 15, Narad says, Talakshani vachate nana mata bhedat. This means there are various descriptions or characteristics of spiritual devotion due to different points of view. In other words, different sages, different spiritualists have different perspectives on what devotion actually is. We need to understand that when we talk of things of a spiritual nature, we are referring to an experience. An experience. So it's one thing to put the knowledge, but this knowledge tries to describe a particular experience. So the main problem is this. If you haven't had the experience, then you cannot relate. You wouldn't understand. So what happens, these sages, these devotees, they have this experience and they try to relate it to us. But we cannot understand the full picture because we haven't had that experience. You understand? So we are getting different perspectives on this experience, but you would only understand it when you have this experience yourself. Narad is going to present the perspectives of different people, and then he's going to synthesize that and put forward what he thinks devotion is, or the experience of devotion is. Narad goes on to say in Sutra 16, Puja disha vanuraga iti parasharyaha. So we're going to look at the perspective of this first sage. Who is this sage? According to the son of Parasharya, who is sage Vyas, Ved Vyas, spiritual devotion is expressed through the intense longing to perform ritual worship. So the view of Ved Vyas is that this spiritual devotion manifests as a desire to perform physical ritual worship. If you look on the Bedi here, we have murtis, we offer different ingredients, we have a tulsi plant, we have the flame, and we perform physical actions. Year upon year, every festival, we make various offerings, and we don't stop, we keep doing it. Why? Well, according to Ved Vyas, this ritual worship comes, this desire to do ritual worship comes as a result of devotion. Now, ritual worship, people have different perspectives on this. Some think it's a waste of time, you need to meditate only. Some get caught up in ritual worship at the expense of other things, and we need to understand this in context. Now, ritual worship is a great aid to help us in fixing our minds on something concrete. So to fix our minds and heart on God, as we say. This is the starting point. There's a saying, you need to be a god to worship God. So we must not think that the ritualistic worship that we do is dualistic in nature, meaning I am here and God is there. Initially we start off thinking this, but that is not really what ritualistic worship is about. It must be performed with the idea that I have God within, and what I'm doing outside is a manifestation of that. In other words, it is the self worshipping the self. I don't know if you understand what this means, but this is the attitude that lies behind ritual worship. We worship Ganga Ma at the start. It is said you worship Ganga Ma with Ganga Ma. If you look at those of you who have been to India, you see people making offerings. They pick up the water and they offer it back into the water. The water is being offered to the water. Ganga is being offered to Ganga. And this is the essence of ritual worship. Even after attaining enlightenment, as we say, sages still continue to perform ritualistic worship. Why? If it was unnecessary, they wouldn't do it. But with this deeper understanding, they continue to perform ritualistic worship in this fashion. So for example, Adi Shankar, Sri Ramakrishna, we have many examples of realized souls who continue to perform ritualistic worship. We've mentioned before as well the underlying technology of Bhut Shuddhi, the purification of these 5 so-called great principles. I wouldn't call them elements, I'll call them great principles. Earth, solidity, weight, geometry, form, that's solidity. Then you have water, which is liquidity or cohesiveness. You have fire, which is light and heat, that principle. You have air, which allows for movement. And you have Akash, that spaciousness that permeates everything. These 5 principles are used in ritualistic worship. Now, why it is you have to perform the rituals over and over? When you get up in the morning, you bathe, not so? You brush your teeth. So you perform external cleansing, but the rituals actually is a spiritual cleansing, as it were. Whether you intend for it to happen or not, because of the materials that are used. And the last point on this, we understand the benefit of rituals and that's why we do it. It is a useful tool. However, it is very easy to become bogged down in the mythology and rituals. Case in point, we have a big issue recently with using tulsi leaves in Ganesh Persad. Why? There are different stories that you hear or read, again coming from the Puranas, where Tulsi wanted to get married to Ganesh. Ganesh gave her a srap, she gave him a srap. Really fantastic stories. But the thing is, why do we use Tulsi? We have a Tulsi plant right here on the Bedi. If Ganesh Baba didn't like Tulsi, he would get up from the Bedi and walk off. So why don't, what is the rationale behind it? I consider myself to be a young, somewhat rational Hindu. So what's the logic? 2 explanations. One that I'm pretty sure everybody could accept. Tulsi is an extremely complete medicinal plant. And you could read up on this on your own. I wouldn't go into detail, but the properties of Tulsi are used for conditions such as cancer, diabetes, anxiety, many different things. When a person is going to die, you give them Tulsi water to drink. Why? Well, the medical reason is when you steep the Tulsi leaves in water, it produces chemicals in the water. When you drink it, it reduces your anxiety. In other words, people at the time of death are fearful. It calms them down so that they could go peacefully into death. Tulsi tea is drunk for people with anxiety and stress as well. I've tried it and it works. That rationale you could buy. But then why do we worship the plant? Why do we plant it around? The second level is where you need to believe in something. As Hindus, we believe various objects, various leaves, they carry a vibration with it. So those of you that do physics, you know a sound wave. Sound waves are made up of individual vibrations put together. But you have these fundamental vibrations, frequencies. Out of all the plants and trees that we have, Tulsi has a very high vibration around it. And that's all I would say. The problem is we are not sensitive enough to detect these things. But there's a vibrational quality that purifies. You keep it in your home, you keep it in the yard. It's a representation of Lakshmi Devi, Tulsi, Vrinda. And we put it in the Persad so that it purifies it. We consume it, it purifies us. And I could buy into those two reasons. Whether Tulsi was angry with Ganesh and not, and who got slapped, I don't know about that. But we continue to use Tulsi and put Tulsi in everything that we have. So we need to be careful that we are not carried away by the mythology. We try to understand the basis of it. That's ritual worship, karma yoga. What's another perspective? Narad goes on in verse 17. He says, Katha Dishriti Gargaha. According to sage Garga, spiritual devotion is expressed through discussions on spiritual themes, listening to scriptures, chanting the Lord's name. So this is Garga's perspective now on spiritual devotion. What is this? We identify this as Gyan Yoga, the knowledge part. So we're moving from external to inside. We start to analyze things. And he is saying this desire to listen to the glories of the divine, to learn about ourselves, this, using the mind and intellect, is what spiritual devotion is all about. Narad ji goes on to say, Atmaratya virodhaneti shandilyaha. According to sage Shandilya Rishi, spiritual devotion is expressed by perpetual delight in the self. Perpetual delight in the self. So we're going even deeper now, looking at, let's say, Raj Yoga, or the meditative aspect within, at the deepest level inside. So at this level, what it means, you have no sense of individuality, no sense of me or mine. You identify with everything. You see yourself as being bigger than who you are in this limited body. So I'm saying these words to you. I don't know if you understand what it means, but it demands an experience. And that is all I could say. So we get glimpses possibly of these experiences, but according to sage Shandilya, this is what spiritual devotion is. I should also mention that sage Shandilya produced his own Bhakti Sutras, the Shandilya Bhakti Sutras, but those sutras are more academic in nature. Narad is simpler, easier, straightforward to follow. So Narad put these three perspectives, the Karma Yoga perspective, the ritual, the Gyan Yoga perspective, and then the sort of Raj Yoga perspective, the meditation. But what does Narad have to say about all this? Nadarastu tadarpita khila charata tadvismarane param vyakulateti. According to sage Narad, his view is, spiritual devotion is expressed by sanctifying all of your activities through contemplation on the Lord at all times. But not only that, and by supreme anguish upon forgetting the beloved. Now we need to unpack what this means. We must have that sense of divinity at all times, Narad is saying. But if we happen to lose it, we become very, very agitated. It is a state that we experience at all times. This, according to Narad, is what supreme devotion is about. So let me summarize. In the path of Bhakti Yoga, you have different bhavas, you've heard, different relationships to God. But putting another perspective, you have Puja Bhav, which is the worshipping state of mind, rituals. You have Stava Bhav, which is the praying state of mind, you say prayers. You have Dhyana Bhav, which is the meditative state of mind, and you have Brahm Bhav, which is the mind merged in God. So can you see the progression? Narad is integrating all of these into Brahma Bhav, where you have this experience of the Supreme all the time, whatever you're doing, wherever you go. And if it is lost, it causes supreme anguish, agitation, and you try to get it back. But this constant state we are talking about, Narad is saying that state of bliss is referred to as supreme devotion. Now, let me wrap up and summarize with a little story. There were two yogis, and they had a guru. And they had a habit of smoking cigarettes. So they used to like to smoke, okay? Both of them, realizing they had this problem, they wrote letters to their guru and said, Guru, what to do? The guru replied to one of them and said, it's okay to smoke. The guru replied to the other one and said, it's not okay to smoke. So these two, yogi disciples were confused. How could the guru be giving us conflicting information? So they decided to compare their letters, that the guru sent to them. And what they found, the first one asked if it was permissible to pray while he was smoking. The guru said, yes, of course. The second one asked if it was permissible to smoke while praying. The guru said, no, of course not. So do you understand the difference? Whatever activity we are performing, we need to have that prayerful mind. If we are praying and we have these external distractions, smoking, that's the lost Narad is talking about that causes anguish. So to summarize, Narad is putting to us the supreme state. He has integrated different views. He's shown us the pathway that we need to go through. And we need to aim to reach that level where we experience this bliss at all times. This is what is referred to as supreme devotion. Bole Sri Ganga Mata ki Jai.
Bole Vrindavan Sri Krishna Chandra ki Jai. Devotees, we have listened to Bhakti. And as it was mentioned, Narad synthesized the various pathways. One may want to question whether Parashar didn't know what he was saying if he was limited. Why he said only up to that, and then Garg limited also, then Chandilya, and Narad synthesized everything. But it's not a matter of one doesn't know. They all understood what spiritual devotion was all about. But it's, as Pandit Umesh mentioned, it's a series of steps. And to understand it, Sri Ram very beautifully put it, Naudha Bhakti. And if you follow closely what Pandit Umesh said, the Naudha Bhakti can be categorized into these four classes, starting from Pratham Bhakti Santan Kar Sangha, association, Dusi Ratma Katha Prasanga, listen to the glories of God, listen carefully, and you will see that everything is there documented. It's a developmental process from one point to the ultimate state of Bhagavan says, see me in all things, think of none else other than me, be totally dependent upon me. Mera bharosa karna. Brahm. Absorption into Brahm. It's a wonderful, wonderful journey, but what we need to understand there, it is the development of this philosophy of bhakti. Beautifully put, I think, and summarized by Sri Ram wonderfully in Sri Ram Charitamanas. And it's nice that he brought up this point of Tulsi. This month, a very auspicious month for Tulsi Puja, and we have Tulsi Viva, and he mentioned the, fear of people not putting Tulsi in Ganesh Prasadam. Years ago, they would never put Tulsi in Shiv Prasadam. Different reasons given, and he mentioned mythology. And this is sad, that people use mythology to determine the practice. Now, I just want to put one simple statement with respect to Tulsi, and in the context of this month being Tulsi Puja, Tulsi Vivaha. We say the Tulsi mantra, Mule tu savatirthani, Sakha tu sarva devata, Patte tu sarva yagyani, Tulsi tu namamiham. It is said, at the base of the Tulsi or the root of the Tulsi, all the holy places reside. Mule tu savatirthani, Sakha tu sarva devata. On the branches of the Tulsi, all the devatas reside. Patte tu sarva yagyani. The leaves of the Tulsi symbolize all the yagyas that we have. Tulsi tu namamiham. I bow to you, O Mother Tulsi. Pandit Umesh mentioned the point of vibrations. If all holy spots reside at the base of the Tulsi, then imagine where Tulsi is, what that place is all about, the vibrations. He is using a scientific approach to it. Perfectly correct. Where Tulsi is, that place is blessed. The positive vibrations exist there. Indescribable. Now the point I want to just focus briefly on, Sakha tu sarva devata. All the devatas reside on the branches of the Tulsi. So if that is so, doesn't Ganesh Baba reside there? You have to ask yourself a question. If all the devatas reside on the branches of the Tulsi, then where is Ganesh? Did he decide that he wouldn't sit there? They didn't make any exceptions. So that when people talk about Tulsi giving Ganesh curse and vice versa and whatever, they're taking the very, very simplistic, and I don't want to use a strong word, but I think an idiotic view of what this is all about. It's a blind approach to religion. And this is very much in vogue right now. There are many who want us to go back to dark ages, not understanding. This is not Gyan Bhakti, this is Moor Bhakti. Blind following, which makes no sense. So what we are saying, Tulsi, important, very, very powerful, medicinal properties, the vibrations that emanate out of it. We use Tulsi in all our Persad, in all our pujas. And what I find very disturbing is that from ever since ancient, when say ancient, long time we have been doing this. And there are some amongst us who have been doing this all along, and hearing some nonsense about don't put Tulsi in Ganesh Persad, you have started to do the same stupidity. Don't put it. Many of our own people, when time for puja Persad, did not put in Tulsi. Why? And they say, do put Tulsi? Now I have to ask them, did I ever say so? Who said so? We didn't say so. We say, put Tulsi in all Persad. And again, you see, the limited knowledge, if you call it knowledge at all. Way back in the past, we were told, don't put Tulsi in Shiva Persad. Yeah? So when one asks why Shiva Persad, because Tulsi is Lord Shiva daughter-in-law. That's an answer we got. So I asked the question, which one of the sons of Lord Shiva did Tulsi marry? They become his daughter-in-law. Just ask the question. Ganesh Baba didn't want to get married to her, and Swami Kartikeya never got married. By the way, how many sons Lord Shiva has? Some people say 2, some say 3. Some count Nandishwar as his son also. Remember, Nandishwar was adopted by Parvati Ma, as the story goes. So devotees, here Tulsi got married to none. But you know, very, very instructive. Some time ago, I was doing puja for my granddaughter, whose birthday it was, Diwali day. And my second granddaughter was sitting right here. And I mentioned, you know, putting Tulsi in Persad. So I asked, I said, Mama, do you know why some people say don't put Tulsi? And she said, no, Aja, tell me. I said, okay, simple. Some people say don't put Tulsi because there's a story that Tulsi wanted to get married to a Ganesh. And before I could say anything otherwise, what was the response? But Aja, Tulsi is a thing. Now many of us may not even understand what she means. What does she mean? Tulsi is a thing. How could you marry a thing to Ganesh? Many of us still don't seem to understand that. A child's thinking, 7-year-old, 10-year-old, they're thinking, how could you take a leaf, a tulsi tree, and marry to Lord Ganesh? And I keep saying, forgive me for using this statement, big, whatever. They can't understand this. And they say, yes, don't put Tulsi because Tulsi, they give Ganesh a slap because Ganesh didn't want to marry her. This is what I am saying. Our children these days, they are very intelligent, very smart. Don't come with this foolishness, this absurdity to impose upon our people. Cut the rubbish out. And whoever is responsible for propagating this stupidity, get some sense, man. Grow up. Don't drag Hinduism to that kind of level. It is total stupidity. And again, if I may end by saying this, when Guru Vasisht was asked by Sri Ram, why people can't evolve and reach to the highest point spiritually, Guru Vasisht says, Sri Ram, laziness and stupidity. And in this world, stupidity is so dominant, so prevalent. And you know what? It's frightening. Because when there's this level of stupidity, even amongst the leaders, where are we going? So now you have to determine for yourselves, devotees, follow common sense. And thus, we have to end by saying, some of these so-called leaders, you can't teach them anything, you know what? Murkhasya aushadhi nasti. There is no cure for stupidity. Maybe except eat a tulsi leaf every day. It may help you. Bole Shri Tulsi Mata ki.
Om Jai Swaha Mata, Maya Jai Swaha Mata. Tum Agni ki Shakti, Tum Agni ki Shakti, Tum Sachi Mata. Om Jai Swaha Mata.